Good morning, good day, good afternoon, or whichever you prefer, wherever you are in the world. So, let's talk about the setup this morning and why we were long biased. I don't know if bias is the right word, but whatever. So, with this overnight setup, you hear me talk about this, and I will continue to talk about this. There was data that told us a few things. All right, let's go look at what the data told us. All right. Well, let's flip back. So, just based upon this setup right here, just based upon from here, just Globex, to right here, roughly we'll call it 725 to 730. Just based upon the way this set up, we knew a few things. And we could flip over to the ES here. Same thing, very, very similar setup. All right, so what did we know because of that? Well, we knew based upon historical statistical analysis that based upon that setup, there was a 90% chance on the NQ to get back to this target right here. Sorry, wrong target. This target right here, 21,383. So right in here in this range, we knew that there was a 90% chance basically, 89.19, close enough. We knew on the ES with that setup, there was a 92.86% chance to get back to this target right here. All right. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty good chance. I like it. All right. So then we knew if we flip back over on the ES that we had roughly an 80% chance to get back to midnight, roughly a 75% chance to get back to Globex. Right. And this is on the ES again. Right, so midnight's right here, so there's less of a chance of midnight. So what that tells me is typically this particular setup, midnight's a little higher than this area right here. Or this just isn't quite as big. Or something along those lines. But either way, no big deal. And then we've got Globex up here, which was roughly 80% or 75%, sorry, right up here. So we have almost a 90% chance to get to around here. And then we have another, I think it was 75 to 80% chance to get back up into this range. Well, that's not too shabby. All right, so then we flip over to the NQ. We go back. Excuse me. We got, what was that, 90% chance to get back to this target, as we said. And then we scroll down. We have an 85% chance for midnight. We have an 81% chance for Globex. Right, so we have an 85 to 90% chance to get here. Then if we get back to Globex open, which is over here, 21,415, we had roughly an 80% chance to get there. Those are pretty damn good odds. Okay, not bad at all. So then, we start trying to figure out what does the entry look like on something like this. All right, if we flip back over and we look at our data here, what are we looking at? Well, we have these two potential setups in the morning session, right? You can see the time down here. Okay. So this is the way the market looks like it's setting up. And if we go back and we start to play this out, this is kind of what we got. We just got it a wee bit early, just a tiny bit early. All right. So this is telling us that at the open, so into the open or right before the open, we're going to go sweep the low. All right. And this is telling us something similar, right? We're going to go sweep the low at the open or just before or into the open. So there's going to be an attempt to go take out this low. And that's what this is telling us. The attempt is going to be there. All right. So that's what we're looking for. So what do we see? So if we're sitting here on the NQ, and just so you know, this data is NQ data. All right. So if we were to play this forward and we start to look, this is what we're looking for. We want to see a sweep of the low side before the open, right? So here we are getting into the morning session. You want to see failure to the high side, failure to the high side. We want to see this thing start to sweep. So we know if we flip back over, both of these show us that at 9:20 in the morning, that is where the low tends to get put in. Okay? That's what it's showing us on these models. So if we're going to flip back over and we're going to look here, this little low right here, if we're going to take this thing long, this is the first place we're going to try to take it long. Okay? Then what we're going to do is, we really try to take it on the sweep of this previous candle right around this 920 candle, because that's what you want. You want to see the sweep of the candle. But whatever. You can't really, set your entries on replay here. So the next target we want to take is we want to sweep. We know that there's a possibility that we're going to sweep this low. So where would that be too? We have a couple of places we'd take that to. We'd take our next entry right here. And I talked about this morning on our live session this morning. And then you got another potential here. Now, if we get way down here, I'm not as interested in taking it back up to those high statistical targets. All right. Now, what we start to see is, so what are we here? Right at the open. So the next candle is the opening candle, right? So we're sitting in our long, right? We're sitting in our long. We're sitting in our long. We're waiting. All right. So we get above here. And if we're going to hold, if we're going to try to reject too much, we could take half of our position off. The rest of our position, we just want to take somewhere in here. Right. And so this morning, while we were looking at doing this thing live, there were a couple of places that we were kind of looking for these targets to end up. Oh, that was the stop I had. That was the entry from this morning. So anyway, that was where the stop was, right? That's where our break-even stops were. So then this thing rides up. We're only in one here. So typically, this is just for show. So, right, you could either take your position here, you could move your stops up, you could do whatever you need to. But the idea here being, if you're going to scale into a position, you need to have a real plan. And where do all these targets up here come from? This whole box, this just comes from a bunch of harmonic targets. If you don't know what that is, then I'm not going to teach you harmonics on this video. It's not important. It's only important for you to understand why there's so many targets up here in this box. And so this right here was the main target. So actually, this was the main target, right? This main high statistical area. Secondary target was here. And then because we have our handy dandy auto mapping tool, now there's a lot here, so you just have to, kind of wade through a bunch of stuff. But this Asia high, see that? 87.5% chance to return to this Asia high. So now the statistics are starting to line up that this thing might actually go higher. All right. So what do we get? We're going to continue on here. We're going to continue on here. Okay, we reached into our targets. We got some news. And that news, so here's the interesting thing. And I'm going to flip over and get to the same point on the ES. Here's why it's important that I watch both. So we have all of our targets here. We've gotten all of them now. Position done. Why did that pop occur? Right, so this pop occurred at 10 a.m. So let's get to 10 a.m. Okay, so here's our open. We're pushing, we're pushing, we're pushing, and we just can't make it. And we know 90% chance to get up here. 90% chance. So we got some news on what happened. Boom. This is why I play the statistical chances with these setups. It doesn't matter if it can't get up there, if it can't get up there. News will happen and it will go. It's a statistic for a reason. Now, if you notice, we missed the target by, I don't know, we'll call it 2 or 3 ticks, maybe. And that's okay. Because where are we going to pull back if we pull back? We're going to pull right back into this open range right here. Every single time. That's the attempt anyway. It's always the attempt. And you'll hear me say this. This is just the attempt. The statistic means the attempt will most likely be there. All right? It'll most likely be there. That's why you get a statistical target, and they start to tail off because for it to go further takes more effort. So anyway, let's keep going. We pull back. Oh, look at that. How beautiful is that? Right back into the open range. And then what do? Now we're going to chase this target. And what other target are we going to chase? Let's look at this handy dandy indicator. Ooh, 86.8% chance to go take out the Asia high. Well, that's not too bad. That's on 2 different futures we have that now. Pretty sweet. And here we are alive. Now, we haven't gone out to take out the Asia high yet. Doesn't mean we won't. Doesn't mean we will. But this attempt sure is there. That's what matters. All right. So, and this is just the basics of this, right? We're not getting into the details of all the other information about what the, when we started to narrow it down as the position started to build, what the high and low of days were, how far we moved and all of that. We haven't even gotten into that information yet. So, but the idea being, we're going to load up around the time this thing should turn around, and then we'll catch any more pulls that happen to a certain point, because we know statistically we're going to go move back to these areas. This is why data is important. This is why it's important to have statistics, and it's important to understand how to view this data. And I can't stress this enough. It's very important to understand how to view the data properly. If you have the wrong data, because some of you do, and you don't know how to view the data properly, because some of you don't, this is not going to work out for you. All right? Having the statistical information with a strategy. Okay, can you just take entries based upon this data? Yeah, we did this morning. But we had a statistical target, and we had another strategy that we were using, harmonics, to take us to our targets. Now, the NQ, it blew through everything. That's okay. Am I salty that I didn't ride that up? Yeah, a little bit. But I made my money, I took my money, and I'm good for the day. I was finished trading this morning at 10 o'clock. That's not something to be sad about. You're not always going to get the high and low. Oh, I meant to take that down here. Whatever, doesn't matter. We know that that's not real. It was only like 16 or 1800 with one contract. But either way, the point being, understand what it is you're looking at and understand why it matters. All right. Now, with that in mind, if you want access to this data, and on top of that, you want to know how to actually use this data, reach out and we could talk about it. Want to figure out what your strategy is first. Because if you come in here with no strategy, first things first, you got to have strategy. You got to understand why the market does what it does, how it does what it does, when to lose and when to win. So, come on. Happy to have you, but reach out. I hope you did well today, and if you didn't, let's talk about that. So I will chat with everyone soon. Have a lovely day.